Welcome in, everybody, to the UCR Football Show presented by Fire and Vine. I'm Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. Round two of the high school football playoffs is here, and man, is it going to be a fun week this week. We're going to wrap up round one. We'll get you ready for all of the round two matchups, and we'll get into so much more. All the games across the Upper Cumberland. There is a big one coming up in round two this week. Of course, we'll talk about that. Just one broadcast game this week, but a pretty big one. We'll have a pretty long conversation about that as well. If you're tuned in across the Upper Cumberland or wherever you're tuned in from tonight, let us know where you're watching from, what games you're looking forward to coming up this week, and just comment along with us. You can throw questions in there. We're doing it a little bit differently tonight. You can see we're not at Fire and Vine, but it is still presented by Fire and Vine, but we're doing it remotely. We can do a little research with you. We can look stuff up. If you got some questions for us, let us know, and we can kind of go through, and we'll try to make it an interactive show today. Does that sound good?
Let's do it. I'm excited. This feels like a semifinal week, and it is the second round of the playoffs. I mean, this new format, it has its issues, and we can talk about it, but there's a couple of big-time games across the Upper Cumberland. One, I mean, the biggest second-round game that I can ever remember up here. We got a lot to get into, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Let's do it, man. Let's go.
If you're tuned in on Facebook or YouTube, you can like the stream on both places. You can comment along in both places. We'll see your comments there. Make sure you share it if you're on Facebook as well. Helps us out more than you know. And subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Once again, this is the UCR Football Show presented by Fire and Vine. I'm Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. Round two of the high school football playoffs are here. Let's get right into it. Of course, as we start every single show, we want to thank all of our all-inclusive sponsors for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. That includes Watson Chevy, as you're watching it right here on the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network, Mayberry's Furniture, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, Amonette's Eagle Auction and Realty, Swallows Insurance, Tee Up in Baxter, Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate, Nick's Restaurant, Turf Masters Landscape Management, The Real Estate Collective, Livingston Regional Hospital, Fire and Vine, The Quality Family, The Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, and Legacy House. Thank you so much to all those people and businesses for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. You ready?
Absolutely. We so appreciate the sponsors. A couple of new ones that have jumped on this week with a huge game. We have an opportunity for a couple of more. We are going to sell out on Friday night's game, so make sure you send us a message tonight. But appreciate the sponsors making all this possible. Listen, there's a lot of stuff that happens here for free, and Goose is full-time, Jacob's full-time, I'm full-time. We got a lot of other people, a lot of cost in this thing, and it's all because of our advertisers that make it possible to do this. You talk about Goose today in Birdstown, everywhere. In Sparta, signings there. You can either talk about it or be about it. And we're about it, and it's because of our sponsors that make it possible for us to do all this content that we're putting out constantly here at UCR.
The top five was pretty easy, and it's not changing because there's only 5 teams remaining here in the playoffs, so it makes it pretty easy this week.
Yeah, and it worked out well because this is it. We did the basketball top 5 yesterday, so if you missed that, the first basketball boys and girls top 5, that's on the preview series episode that we did where we really dove into Class 1A across the UC, so make sure you check that out after this is done if you haven't already. Every team won, and we mentioned last week, but as we came out with this top 5, Jacob, felt like these 5 teams had supplanted themselves, and they did because they're the 5 teams that are still left standing. So in that respect, and then you look at it as well, you know, the classification's really going to start to come into play with this top 5, but, you know, it's a great list of teams. These 5 all had really good seasons no matter what happens the rest of the way.
Again, those 5 teams, Upperman, Stone, Gordonsville, Clay County, and White County, 1 through 5. Let's get to where Noah was wrong, where he was right. Noah, where were you wrong last week?
You know, I mentioned that I think I haven't picked a Jackson County game right all year. I'm positive I haven't picked a Smith County game right all year. Missed it again. Now, I did take a shot because I'm trailing in the picks, and now you've got to become a competitor. And so I don't know if there was a little gamesmanship in that pick, but I have to take some swings, and I've got to continue to take some swings because I'm running out of time and I'm trying to win. So missed that one. Outside of that, where I was right, round 1 is super easy. You know, like I said, I took a shot on one game. Other than that, it's blowouts all over the place. So nothing really to pat yourself on the back. Now I have an opportunity this week to get a huge where I was right next week. So we'll have to wait and see. But you don't get many opportunities in the prediction business in high school sports to go out on a limb. Am I going to? we'll have to wait and see. There's a couple games
Just
where
have
I
to wait
could.
and see.
We'll have to wait and see.
Let's Renault was wrong where he was right. Let's get into some of the games that happened last week. Of course, we'll get you ready for the games coming up this week as well. And I want to start with one of our teams that ended up losing last week in round one of the playoffs, but was the best game, bar none, on the board from the Upper Cumberland last week as Macon County went down to Red Bank, lost it 31-28. I know you were driving at the time. You were going off to Eastern Illinois and getting ready for the Tech game, but you were tuned into that game. It was a game where Macon County trailed 24-7 in the first half, trailed by 10 with 2:18 to play in the football game, and had a chance to tie it at the end with just a couple seconds to go.
Yeah, tremendous heart shown by Macon County in that game. They had a big problem. They couldn't stop Sally, the running back for Red Bank. And I want to say something about Eli Gammon. Eli Gammon is a great kicker, maybe the best in the entire Upper Cumberland. And sure, would you have liked to make the kick? Of course. But Eli Gammon's why they had the ball, because he had a perfect onside kick. And he
got two of them in the second half.
I'm not sure they won a state championship last year without Eli Gammon and his ability in both the kickoff game and in field goals. What a tremendous year that kid had. So I know everybody focuses on one play. I get it. That's the nature of the beast in football. The reason Macon County didn't win that game had really nothing to do with that kick. It had to do with the athletes that Red Bank had, but tremendous fight shown. What a run Macon County went on. We know we'll have a new champ in 4A, but that's a valiant effort for a team that lost a ton off of last year's squad. You lose that amount of production to go get into the playoffs out of Region 4A and go toe-to-toe with a region champ showed what that program is made out of. So a good season for Macon County. I know it's not the end result they wanted, but great fight for them on one of the lone Friday games we had last week.
Yeah, they were down 10 with 2:18 to play. They need a touchdown quickly. They were able to get a passing touchdown from 40 yards out, and then they kicked an onside kick, recovered the onside kick, and were able to move it down the field and have a chance to tie it at the end in regulation. Ultimately, it was missed. But again, that was just a force overtime. So there was no given that the Tigers would have gone on to win in overtime because, again, they were having a hard time trying to stop that Red Bank side, and especially Jacoby Sally, who ran for 4 touchdowns and over 230 yards. He only had about 20 carries in the game as well. So he was absolutely gashing the Macon County defense in that game. But you said it, a tremendous effort, tremendous. I mean, there was a point in that game in the first half. I'm sitting there with Tim and Steven, and we look at each other and say, are we going to have a running clock in this game? Because it was 24-7, and they threw an interception, and it sure looked like it was about to go that way, and they absolutely turned it around and gave themselves a chance. So a tip of the cap to Macon County, that coaching staff and all the players as well as they finished their season in round one of the playoffs. We do have some of those questions rolling in.
Macon didn't kick it with 40 seconds.
Yeah, it was with 2 seconds left.
Yeah.
It was at the end of regulation. Jonathan, we'll get to yours whenever we do talk about that Upperman Alcoa game coming up in a little bit. But keep those questions rolling in. Some Bees fans in the comments, some White County fans in the comments. Speaking of those White County Warriors, they finally got back into the win count. The offense got going as they beat Hickson 20-14. Back running the football well, over 237 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns on the ground, able to throw for a touchdown, and the defense stepping up and making some plays, creating 3 takeaways, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. Seems like White County got back to their mojo a little bit on the road in Hickson.
Yeah, back to what we saw White County be the first 8 games of the season, Jacob. You talk about not overpowering on the scoreboard, very comfortable in 1-2 score games, back to not allowing more than 2 scores from your opponent, only giving up 14. That was a familiar White County team, and credit to them. You go back-to-back games getting shut out, and albeit the Stone game much more competitive than the Upperman game was, it's easy to pack it in and go home. They still go on the road to the Chattanooga area and knock off Hickson. No small feat there. Now the equation changes drastically, and we'll talk later on in the show about the Greenville game. But that, again, and I think I may have said this out on the Thursday Night End Zone show, it reflects what I talk about all the time. Your culture is not tested when things go well. It's tested when things don't go well. And you've heard David Foster all season go, this is our identity. We're going to run the football. We're going to play good defense. We're going to play sound, fundamental football. And they got back to doing that on Friday night. That was a really good win. 237 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. That offensive line, I think, took it personal, started moving things up front. And Cole Sims looked like Cole Sims running behind those big boys. So a great victory, and good to see the formula back for White County, holding a team to 14 and making enough plays down the stretch. That's the thing. For White County, you feel like if they can get into a dogfight, they're going to find a way to win, because that's what they've done consistently. The Stone game, it got past them. The Upperman game was out of hand from Jump Street. When they are in a dogfight, they are very comfortable there. So you feel like if they can keep it in that kind of in a phone booth game, they got a chance against anybody.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned you having to go on the road to Greenville. It's going to be a very tough game coming up this week. And in Greenville, we've kind of talked about it, where it seems like it's starting to become there's some tiers in terms of this side of the bracket. Greenville is definitely in that top tier, if not maybe the top team on this side of the state in this eastern half of the bracket. It's obviously you've seen them already this year, albeit early on this year. Huge football team. They've got 2 Mr. Football semifinalists. They can score in so many different ways. Defensively, they've got some really nice players as well. But those White County Warriors, they do what they do, and they do it well. And we'll see if they're able to go on the road. And we'll talk about their game coming up in a little bit against Greenville. But we'll see what they can do against those Green Devils. The game that you were at, Stowe Memorial beats Loudon 44-21. Noah Potter, really good again. 170 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns passing. Caden Page had 9 catches for 112 yards and 3 scores. They also ran the ball really well. 24 carries as a team for 168 yards and a score. Another good win for Stone Memorial, and they're into the second round.
Yeah, a good win for Stone indeed. And you mentioned the running game. AJ Vandiver's running the ball really well. Torrey McDowell is there. Noah Potter didn't have to run a ton against Loudon. And the way that they are able to throw the football, it's kind of Tennessee-esque in that you have to make a decision. And usually that decision is taking somebody out of the box. And then it's a numbers game. They can do a lot of outside stuff where they run outside the tackle and just have you outnumbered. And so they do a really good job. Derek Samber, I think, calls it really smartly where, hey, if we got numbers, we're going to run it for 7-8 yards and then go play another snap and take your shots off of it. And when you've got a quarterback the caliber of Noah Potter, that helps a lot. His connection with Caden Page is out of this world. And this is a Stone team that I think is very dangerous. We're obviously about to preview the game with Anderson County. People are asleep on this team a little bit. And I get it, obviously. By far, the best team that they faced was Upperman. It was not a super competitive final score, at least. But they're playing a sustainable brand of football, and they're playing great on defense. I know Loudon ended up getting 21. They changed it up. They had been pretty much 95% run. They changed back to their original starting quarterback.
I was say that's what was so interesting to me, because you were kind of letting us know going into that game, Loudon just really doesn't throw the football. And then you look at the stats and they were throwing it all game long.
Yeah, and I think they recognized that they had to get that element in. And so they go back to the Udi, the original quarterback. And listen, he's a sophomore. He's got a nice arm. Got to develop a little bit there. But they were taking one-on-one shots, and they hit a bomb late. But the opening drive, they go down the field. So you score on one of your last drives and your first drive. In the middle, Stone's defense played really, really well. I think they played better than that final score indicates. It's a dangerous Stone team with a lot of real weapons, not just, they can beat up on bad teams. No, Noah Potter's a real deal at quarterback. And Caden Page can go against anybody. And Dylan Phillips and Hunter Haney are really good. And this offensive and defensive line has been playing well. Stone is a threat in this 4A bracket, no doubt about it.
Upperman beating Signal Mountain fairly handily, 50-6, doing anything they wanted offensively. 469 yards of total offense in that win against Signal Mountain in round 1. And it was Carmine Phillips who was the star in that game. 5 touchdowns on the ground on 14 carries. He had 183 yards. Bronson Chaffin really didn't have to do a whole lot in the game against Signal Mountain.
No, this is talking to some of the people around the program, feel like they didn't play their best and they won 50-6. So handle business. Obviously, our thoughts with Elijah Barlow, who had the injury in that game, that he makes a full recovery. But Carmine Phillips, I mentioned on Thursday, brilliant coaching. Carmine Phillips is a real weapon. I mean, you heard his coach said before the year, he's one of the best players to ever come through there. And I feel like he's the forgotten man. There's a couple of those there. When you got players the caliber of Bronston Chaffin and Colton Johnson, you get it. But players like Carmine Phillips is why this is an elite 4A football team. And to put that on tape of, hey, we can get in here and run it through your face still. It's still Upperman. I thought was a really smart move by Adam Kane, and 5 touchdowns for Carmine. That'll get it done, and not a huge surprise in the final score, but as you wrote down, it sets up the game of the year without question, and maybe in the entire state, but certainly in this classification.
And we're going to talk about that game coming up in just a little bit. So those are some of the games that happened last week in round one. Let's get you ready for the games that are coming up this week. Let's start with the games. We only have one broadcast game coming up this week, and that one will be Upperman and Alcoa. Let's start with the non-broadcast games, and we'll start with this White County game at Greenville. It's a 3-seed going on the road to number 1 Greenville. Obviously, White County able to get back into the win column last week after not scoring the previous 2 weeks against Upperman and Stone Memorial. Greenville has looked really, really good this year. You've seen them in person already. You've been there in Greenville a couple of times. It's a long road trip, and it's not an easy place to play. It's going to be a tall task for these White County Warriors.
Yeah, right now I think Greenville's a favorite. I'm just going to say it that simply. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Doesn't mean they can't be beaten, certainly doesn't, but they are really, really good. Multiple, able to do a lot of different things. And in some ways, Jacob, a total nightmare matchup for White County. I'm just going to be honest about it, because they are bigger than Sparta up front. And you couple that with real dudes, and one in particular. I don't know. They're going to try something. David Foster's really smart. I don't know what the antidote is for Zay Anderson for White County. I don't think it's a great matchup just if Zay Anderson didn't exist. I don't think it's a great matchup. It's especially not a great matchup with him on the outside, because we've seen receivers with a size and speed of Anderson really create some issues for White County this season. So that being said, the path for Sparta, they have to do what Upperman did there 2 seasons ago. They got to go in there and run through Greenville's face for 4 quarters. They have got to stand there and watch the play clock tick down to 2 seconds, take the snap, hand off 3 yards, stand there, watch the play clock run down to 3 seconds, take the snap, hand off, force some negative plays, rip a football out, get some turnovers, and wake up and look up in the 4th quarter, and it's a 1-score game with a chance to go win it. That is the path for White County. It's a lot easier said than done, though. Here is the one caveat. This is true for Greenville, and this is true for Anderson County. They have gotten shocked by teams before where they have not been super ready to go. I don't know, quite frankly, if that's enough for White County to be able to win the game, but White County needs that to happen. They need Greenville to not play their best game, and they've got to play their A++ game. You saw what happened when there was one common opponent here, Upperman. Upperman and Greenville was a great game. Greenville wins it, though, and it was not close at all when Sparta played at Upperman. So something's going to have to change drastically. Respect all, fear none. Sparta's got to go in there with a good game plan, but it has got to be churn up the clock, run it down in a very tough place to play at Burley Stadium.
Greenville beat Upperman back in week 2 this season, 41-33. Upperman obviously beating White County just a few weeks ago, 42-0 in Baxter, that being the like opponent. And the only loss this season for the Green Devils, Sevier County. Very good Sevier County team in the 5A classification in double overtime, 30-27. And they have absolutely dominated everybody else on their schedule. Very similarly to Upperman, where they've had the 2 close games and the 2 losses, have dominated every single other team on the schedule. They're scoring 49.3 points per game, and they're only allowing 10 points per game. So not only is it going to be hard to score on them, you got to figure out how to slow down their offense.
And Greenville shows no mercy, any other word you want to put onto it. When they can blow teams out, they hammer teams. And we talked about how I throw some of the stats out when you play Greenville, just because it doesn't impress me when you win 76-0. It does nothing for me when you put up 60 points on a team that's just athletically not as good as you. So you take some of that with a grain of salt, but they're really, really good. They're huge up front, just humongous. Yeah. Now, they can be beaten. You saw Sevier County do it. I don't think that there is anybody in this class that is unbeatable. There is not a Alcoa in 3A of recent years where it is you're just not going to touch them. I don't think that team exists in this class. But for White County, they got to go play their A+ game and see what happens, because that is the one caveat for Sparta here, Jacob. They played 2 great opponents in that 2-game losing streak in Upperman and Stone. They did not play their best in either game. Like, I thought Stone actually played pretty well against Upperman. And I know they'll say they could play better. I get it. They could. I did not feel like Sparta played particularly well, particularly against Upperman, but not against Stone either. So if you're in that locker room right now, I think you're saying, hey, we got to go play our best and then see what happens. That's what you can control. How do you play? The other thing that's going to be critically important, they got to protect the football. The fumbles were out of control in that 2-game losing streak. You cannot give this Greenville team extra opportunities. Protect the football, force a couple of turnovers. You can look up, it could be a game in the fourth quarter.
So White County at Greenville coming up on Friday for round 2 of the playoffs. Let's talk about these Clay County Bulldogs. They're hosting this round 2 playoff game as they won last week against Copper Basin 40-6. It's the third home game in a row for these Clay County Bulldogs. Going to be hosting the number 2 seed out of Region 2 Single A in Midway. Midway this season 5-2, or make it 8-3 on the season. They were 5-2 in region games. It's ridiculous, the region that they play in. You have to play 7 region games compared to Clay County, who has to play 3 region games. But either way, they were the 2 seed out of this region. They beat Cosby in round 1, 27-13. And this is a team that they can score a good amount of points, 29.7 points per game. However, they allow 24 points a game defensively in a game that Clay County, we expect, and I think all of us are going to pick the Bulldogs.
Yeah, we are. Midway is just good enough, though, to get your attention, I think. For a Clay County team that for the bulk of the season did not blow teams out. Now, they're playing really well here as of late and have started to separate these games, and that's exactly what you want to do. You want to be playing your best football on November 12th. But that's enough of a caveat to where your antennas go a little bit up at this game. Midway going to make the trip. You cannot get caught looking ahead because you know South Pittsburgh's looming on the other side. But I think Midway is good enough, Jacob, where if you do that, you could find yourself in a fight. And that's what you don't want. You want to go out there, get the run established with Nolan and Reese Adams, run through their face for 3 quarters, and have a big lead. That has got to be the objective here for Clay County. The good news is, I think if they do that, if they're not looking ahead, one-on-one, they've got a great opportunity to do that on Friday night.
This Clay County team scoring almost 32 points a game. And you've said it, haven't really been blowing teams out until these last 4 weeks, until they got into region play. 54-8 against Red Bowling Springs, 48-0 against Innovation Academy, 46-21 against Joe Burns. And even that one was more of a blowout than what it ultimately was. They took the starters out at the end of it and then beat Copper Basin 40-6, and kind of the same thing, saving those starters for a little bit later on. And so these starters been well rested coming here into round 2 and another chance to get back into the quarterfinals. What a job Coach Lamb has done ever since he took over the program here, coming up from Livingston Academy. He's had nothing but success with this Clay County squad.
Yeah, he's done a tremendous job. He's an elite coach. He's been doing it forever, 500 years. Had to get that one in. But he's going to have this team ready to go. Just don't have the look ahead. If you don't have the look ahead, I like Clay County to handle business in this one.
Just looking through Midway's schedule, they played Jackson County earlier this year, lost that game 21-14. Clay County beating Jackson County 20-9 earlier this season, so a fairly close game. They also played Coalfield, though, and got destroyed 63-7. That was a region game that they lost that game, but since then, they haven't lost. Midway's won a lot of games. It's now, 6 games in a row for this Midway team, so they're used to winning football games, as is Clay County. They haven't lost since week 1 in that game against Glasgow. So 2 teams that are used to winning coming here into round 2 of the playoffs, and like you said, for Clay County, just seems like if you focus on this one, take care of business, you'll be on to the quarterfinals. So that one, another round 2 game. Another one that we're paying attention to coming up on Friday, Gordonsville and Oneida. It's another 1 versus a 2. This one in the 2A classification in round 2 of the playoffs. Gordonsville, our only undefeated team in the Upper Cumberland, 11-0. They beat York Institute last week, 35-7. Valiant effort by York Institute, trying to slow that game down. Just couldn't get enough scoring output on there and able to compete pretty well in that first round. And now Gordonsville has to turn their attention to this Oneida team who beat West Green 36-7 last week.
Yeah, they do. First time these two teams have met since 1990. Gordonsville's never scored a point on Oneida. 15-0 loss and a 16-0 loss. That's going to change on Friday night. That being said, I really, really like the Tigers in this game. To me, them and Clay County, the 2 biggest Upper Cumberland favorites on the board on Friday night. I would be very surprised if either one of those 2 teams weren't able to win their games. And I just think Gordonsville's consistency has been the difference. They have put it together on both sides of the football. Oneida's had an interesting year so far. They've had some ups and downs. You look at it, 6-5 on the season.
They've played a really good schedule.
They lose a narrow one against Bledsoe County, get blown out by CAK. Not worried about that. Coalfield, as you mentioned, Coalfield kind of hammering everybody. Sweetwater, very close game. Eagleton College and Career Academy. So Eagleton beats them 40-7. It's kind of up and down, but they have played in quite a few close games. To me, the game that jumps out to you is the Tellico Plains game, a 24-14 winner over Tellico Plains. So another game where you know what Oneida is going to try to do. They're going to try to come and run downhill through your face. And so I've seen some of the Oneida fans talking about they have not been able to get that signature win. Problem is you're going into the jungle on Friday night. So I don't see that signature win happening. But another area where a potential look-ahead spot for Gordonsville, and you would hope that wouldn't happen for a young team, but the defending state champs could be looming on the other side in Marion County. So it's interesting in these 1A and 2A games, you have that spot where you're a favorite. In 4A, none of that is. It is all in this week.
Right.
You just don't want to get in trouble kind of thinking, oh, you got this one in the bag. Gordonsville's done a really nice job, though, Jacob, of not having any of that. We talked about the consistency, handle business against RBS, handle business last week against York. You know, they are doing what you would expect them to do with the caliber of team that they have.
We've talked about with Stone Memorial how much better the defense has gotten this season, and as the season has progressed, you can say the same thing about this Gordonsville team. Those first 5 weeks of the season, they were giving up points, 18, 12, 14, 27 against Cannon County, and then ever since then, a switch was flipped, and you cannot score on this Gordonsville team anymore. Trousdale County, the team that scored the most on them, they put up 13 against them, but they lost 39-13. Gordonsville winning that game 39-13, and so the defense has been really solid these last 5-6 weeks and here into the playoffs. So that'll be a struggle for Oneida, and an Oneida team that's giving up about 19 points a game. Not a horrible number, but this is a Gordonsville team that Goose has talked about it really this last half of the season. They can hurt you in so many different ways, whether it's running the football with a bunch of different guys or going through the air with Jay Foster.
Yeah, no doubt. And you talk about the defense. I mean, how about the offense since before the Cannon County game? 42, 48, 41, 39, 42. Smith County, it's 29, but they were up 29-0 in that game. Right. 35 last week. I mean, they're consistently getting into the upper 30s, lower 40s. That is what we're talking about. Now, that being said, let's be fair about it. Cannon County's out. Jackson County's out. You got Westmoreland there. Trousdale County's out. RBS is out. Smith County's out. York is out. So not Murderers Row. I look at the Coalfield game that obviously got called in the third quarter, a 21-point output for them. But you can only play who you're playing against, and they've not played with their food at all. And I do think there's a real matchup advantage for Gordonsville with all those weapons they have and Jay Foster distributing the football and 82 different tailbacks that Coach Jackson can roll out there. I think they're a big favorite in this game. And the good news is, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blowouts in a row. They got a great chance at number 7 on Friday.
With a win, they would go on the road next week in the quarterfinals to the winner of Marion County and South Green. We expect Marion County to win that football game. So it could be a battle against the defending champs coming up next week in the quarterfinals on the road. Not an easy place to play and a very long road trip it would be for the Gordonsville Tigers. So Tigers taking on the Indians of Oneida coming up this week in the 2A Round 2 playoffs. Let's talk about Stone Memorial and their game coming up because that's a big one against Alcoa coming up on Friday.
Anderson County.
Again, got ahead of myself. Anderson County, still going to be a really big football game. It's a 2 versus a 1. Stone Memorial 10-1 on the season, going to Anderson County, who is 8-2. Stone beating Loudon last week, 42-21. Anderson County beat Volunteer 37-21. So similar games in terms of the score. Mavericks, they can score it though. 42.5 points a game. They've scored as many as 80 against Union County, and they're doing this with a backup quarterback these last few weeks. Their starting quarterback, he's been hurt on and off throughout this season. Their backup quarterback, he can sling it.
Well, they've got the starter back in there with the Alcoa game, and it's the coach's son, a freshman. He's really good. Now, is a freshman, but he's really good, and they were hype on him. And listen, let's just call a spade a spade. Anderson County got a host of kids in from Bearden. You saw Bearden fall off the face of the earth, and you saw Anderson County be really good. It's not a huge shocker when you consider the new age that we live in with the non-real transfer portal. This is a very interesting game. This is the best game on the board that nobody around the state is talking about because, and we're going to get into this a little bit when we talk about Upperman Alcoa. The Anderson County Alcoa game has cast a giant cloud over this classification. Anderson County entered the year feeling like they were a state championship contender. They thought they were last year. They were last year. They pushed Macon County to the brink, right? They would have beat Melrose by 40 points as well. That's a lot of teams would have beat Melrose by 40 points. By the way, Melrose, you're going to get destroyed by Westview next week. We've got to get off the Twitter, Facebook thing. Like, I don't know what is going on out there. Simpson is going to throw for 500 yards. I've never been more confident in my prediction in my entire life. Westview will smoke Melrose next week. I digress. This isn't the Melrose show. I'm just saying. There are a couple of realities of which we could live. And Jacob, you've heard me talk about this off air. And I'm not going to say everything that I've said about that. But is the Anderson County Alcoa game a reflection of where everybody is in this class? Because if it is, it's on. Greenville can win it. Anderson County can win it. Alcoa can win it. Upperman can win it. And maybe Stone Memorial can win it. That doesn't even get into the Gibbs of the world. I don't think Red Bank can win it, no offense. But Gibbs is an interesting game as well. Or was that the perfect storm where Alcoa didn't play well and Anderson County played above their skis? For Stone, they need it to be that. For Upperman, they need it to be the first. That's the reality of the situation. So we're going to figure out which reality we live in. So we got to look at this in a balanced way for Stone Memorial. If the team that lost to Gibbs by 7 and Catholic by 21 and was in a relatively tight game with Chattanooga Prep and South Doyle shows up on their home field, Stone Memorial can make the quarterfinals next week. If the team that showed up against Alcoa showed up, I think it's too much Anderson County. But that should give you some confidence if you're Stone for a program that has had a few look-ahead moments. I do think there was some of that last year with Macon County, that you've got a chance to go win a football game. And Stone Memorial in particular should not be intimidated by anybody. With that quarterback they have, the multiplicity they can play with, and the way their defense has played, I really do think, Jacob, the Panthers have a shot coming up on Friday night at Anderson County, which is a very cool place to call a game or to go watch a game. If you have not been there, the Stone fans will get a treat. They have got a well-oiled operation there at Anderson County.
Yeah, you just got the bleachers on the one side, video board on the other side, and then of course the fireworks show as they come onto the field. As it's a pretty cool entrance there at Anderson County. The Stone team, they've won 7 games in a row. We've talked about how good a football they've been playing. Anderson County, they've won 4 games in a row, including that region title win against Alcoa, 31-30 in the final week of the regular season. We were kind of half broadcasting that one and half broadcasting DeKalb County and Livingston Academy in that final week of the regular season because it was one of the few Friday games on Halloween. Anderson County last season falling to Macon County in the semifinals, 43-41, and we talked about it. They would have gone on to win that state title no matter what if they were able to win that game as well.
Yeah.
So obviously there's maybe a bad taste left in their mouth, and they did lose quite a bit, but you said they kind of reloaded coming into this season, but still a bad taste left in their mouth from last season. They need to focus on this game because this Stone team, they're going to be up for the task coming up here in round 2.
It's an Anderson County program that has made it past the second round every year since 2021. They have at least made the quarters of the semis. They won a state championship in 2022, and it's a Stone team that's no team from Crossville has ever made the third round. Here's an interesting thing. Fulton is terrible. Sorry, it's just true. Outside of that game, points allowed by Anderson County, because the quarterback thing's a real deal. They got their quarterback back in there, and now they've started to open it up. 49, 31, 37. They have allowed 28 points, 19 points, 28 points, 8 to Chattanooga Prep, 35 points, 20, 27, 30, 21. So have not held anybody down besides Fulton. I love that for Stone Memorial, because if there's one thing I'm confident in is that Stone Memorial is going to score some points.
Yeah.
And that then opens up the possibility in a different way for Stone to do what Macon County did last year, which is just, let's go. Score, 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 go down 14. That's okay. Going to go score, recover an onside kick, score. And if you're Derek Samber, I think you welcome that with the kind of team that you have, needing to go score for score with the tempo that you can play with. I do think that there's an opportunity for Stone on the outside to have some success. Anderson County has another really good running back. They have gotten away from running the football at times over the past couple of seasons. LaRue last year, Mr. Football Guy, I felt like if they would have fed him more, they could have won the whole thing a year ago. But there is some openings here for Stone to put up points. To me, the path to victory, Jacob, is 42-35 or 49-42. That sort of a shootout. On the road is going to be tough. There'll be 82 train horns there. They love their train horns. I ban train horns. That's not an Anderson County thing. That's an everybody thing. But I don't – if you said, okay, we're talking about these tiers of teams. If Anderson County is in that top tier of teams, it may be the best matchup for Stone Memorial from that perspective of, all right, they're going to be comfortable in a shootout and going score for score with a team. I don't hate that at all for the Panthers.
Winner of this game will get the winner of Greenville and White County coming up in the quarterfinals. Ethan asking a question, how the quarterfinals are determined. Those flip sides every year. So one year, this year, Greenville is going to get to host, or White County is going to get to host. And then if the two regions are playing against each other, you would take that higher seed coming up in the quarterfinals.
If Stone wins and White County were to win, Stone would host in the quarterfinals because if they come out of the same region, the higher seed host. So, if Stone wins their next two games, say Stone beats Anderson County and Greenville and Upperman beats Alcoa and Gibbs or Red Bank, Upperman would host despite Stone coming from that top half of the bracket. If you just look at it, the same region, that top seed gets to host.
So it just flips. Yep. Every year it goes back and forth. So it's not technically not really determined, just kind of goes back and forth.
That is why the semifinal last year between Macon County and Anderson County was in Lafayette. And why 2 years ago, Upperman went to Greenville. It just flips.
So Stone Memorial, a huge one coming up. You want to pick this game?
Sure. I think Stone has to prove it a little bit from this perspective of, I think by far the best two teams they've faced so far this season are Upperman and Coalfield. Coalfield had them in a big hole. Upperman had them in a big hole. Anderson County's playing with a ton of confidence right now. And while I do think, like I said, everybody in this class can be beaten in a game like that, maybe a little precursor where it's a pretty tight matchup, I'll lean towards the home team. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Stone wins this game, but as of now, I'll take Anderson County in a close one. Let's say 35-28.
I think I'm going to go similar score as well. I'll go a little bit higher, though, and I've got a different score than what I got on the page. You've kind of talked me up into this style. I'll go 42-35. We'll go 42-35 Anderson County.
And now listen.
Going with the home team as well.
I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here because I think if it's 42-35, Stone has a tremendous opportunity to win the football game. I really like them in a shootout. If it's a multi-score game, I think it's Anderson County. If Stone can go back and forth, if they match up personnel-wise with this Mavericks team, which is very talented personnel-wise, I think they got a great opportunity to go win this game.
All right. So there you go. Let's talk the high school football game of the week presented by Mayberry's Furniture and Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate. Keep those comments coming along. Send us questions if you have them. Jonathan, we'll go back to your question, which he asked at the beginning of the show. Number 2, Alcoa, 10-1 on the season, going to number 1, Upperman at 9-2 on the season. It'll be on the main UCR Facebook page and YouTube channel and the NFHS network. Everybody is going to be on the call. Noah McKay, Justin Matheny, Jeremy Tallison in the booth on the call. Coach Dodgen down on the sideline as the sideline reporter. I'll be in there as your game day host, pregame, halftime, and postgame as well. And Goose will be out there for the website, video content and photo content coming to the website after the game. Literally everybody will be there at this game. And it's the biggest game of the year, and it's going to be one of our biggest games that we've ever done in terms of what is on the line in this one. And there is so much to get into for this game. Let's bring you up to speed. Alcoa winning their first round matchup 56-0 after losing to Anderson County in the final week of the regular season. And that loss for Alcoa in the regular season, it was a region loss. It was the first time they lost a region game since 2011. We've got another stat about 2011 coming up a little bit later on. Upperman beating Signal Mountain 50-6 in round 1, and they have won 6 games in a row now, scoring 46.5 points a game over that win streak, and it could have been a lot more than that in a lot of those games. Noah, You're doing play-by-play. Where would you like to start in this one?
I can't believe that we had this matchup in the second round. I was
Right.
sure for 10 months this was going to be a semifinal matchup,
Right.
positive. And then the world kind of changed, as we talked about. We're going to get in. This really is going to be like we talk about a state championship game, or like we talk about a semifinals. We're going to get into it from all angles. So, like we said, the questions, we can go there. But here's the overarching theme that's going to send this discussion. I really don't care about what your preconceived notions are, and that's more to people outside of our area. I could care less. We do this every time. We do it with Upperman Greenville. We do it with Macon Anderson County. We do it with Macon Melrose. We do it with basketball. I don't care. I could care less what anybody who hasn't watched our teams play has to say. Anybody who sits here and declaratively says X team wins, especially X team blows team out, is not watching the tape. This game is Alabama, Georgia, meaning when those teams of that caliber get together, it comes down to a couple of matchups, turnovers, who puts a ball on the ground, who has a bad personal foul penalty. That's who decides who wins the game. This is a good old-fashioned slobber knocker. There are things that are very good for Upperman. There are things that are very good for Alcoa within this matchup. We're going to break it all down. You just steer this thing, Jacob. Let's go.
Well, let's start with this Alcoa team. I mean, they've won 10 straight state titles, obviously making the jump from 3A to 4A this season. They've won 18 titles going back to, 2004? Yeah, 2004, and obviously 10 in a row here in 3A. They moved from 2A to 3A back in 2009, so now making the jump up to 4A. All they have known is pure domination in football for the last decade. And a big stat for this one, we just looked it up before we got on the show. Going on the road in the second round, talked about 2011. This is the first time since 2011 that they are going on the road in the second round. They did win that game back in 2011 and ultimately lost in the quarterfinals, but it's been a long time since they've been on the road this early in the playoffs.
It has been. And so first off, let's just say this. 10 state championships in a row is insane. I don't care the classification when it comes to that, okay?
Yeah.
Winning is all that matters. They win. Now, they recruit. I mean, okay? Everybody understands it. Let's just call a spade a spade. They recruit. It's amazing how many jobs open up in Alcoa every year, and it just happens to be a 4-star that moves in, right? Okay. I'm not saying they do anything against the rules. If there's a legal move, then there's a legal move, right? That's not the argument. But there is a never-ending flow of talent into Alcoa, Tennessee. But they win every year. That being said, and no disrespect whatsoever to any of these teams that I'm about to mention, although it's probably going to sound a little bit disrespectful. Since 2013, let me run through the second-round opponents for Alcoa. All at home. Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg Pittman, Pigeon Forge, Scott, Kingston, Unicoi County, the Fighting Tom McKays, Gatlinburg Pittman, Kingston, Gatlinburg Pittman, Pigeon Forge, Austin East, and now this year, Upperman. One of these things is not like the other. This is a different ball game. Now allow me, if you would, to go through the state championship game opponents. Okay? This is where you go, okay, this is a little bit better. All right. CPA. They lost that last one to CPA. CPA with a win. Liberty Tech, which I don't think exists anymore.
I was going to say,
Covington, Pearl Cone, Milan, East Nashville, Westview. Okay? The path this year for Alcoa would look something like Upperman, Greenville, fill in the blanks in that next round. Anderson County, that's a little bit, then Pearl Cone. It's a little bit of a different path. That's why I say buckle your seatbelts. This is a football game. So look at Alcoa this season. They open up the year, their arch rival. They knock off Maryville. Great win, 28-21, down to the wire. And then the best opponent they played before week 11, a team that's probably underrated right now in the bracket, Gibbs, hammered them 52-7. then played absolutely nobody until Anderson County, and they lost. So I would say 2.5 teams I'd classify as really, really good. And they're 1-2. Now, to be completely fair about it, I think I'd say it's about 2.5 teams that Upperman is, played that's really, really good on an elite level. We'll find out about Stone this week. And Upperman's 0-2. Hard-fought games, but they're 0-2 in those 2 games. So that's not necessarily an Upperman favored stat, it's just a reality of the situation with Alcoa. They are loaded in a different way than I think some people think. First interesting tidbit of the broadcast, Jacob. You know the answer to this, but I'll quiz you anyway. How many starred recruits, as of right now, play for Alcoa High School?
I think it's 1.
It's 1. Great right tackle going to Texas Tech. He's a 3-star. Upperman also has 1. Ronsden Chaffin. Now, both teams probably end up with multiple. Colton Johnson certainly has a couple of these wide receivers for Alcoa. Certainly could. So don't get me wrong. But it is not a team that is 5 stars up and down the lineup. Instead, it's a team that's just really, really well balanced up and down their lineup. Not a whole lot of holes for this Alcoa team that makes them very dangerous and makes them very difficult to prepare for.
This is where I kind of want to start it, I think. I want to start on this offensive line for Alcoa because in the games that Upperman has lost this season, Greenville, very, very good offensive line, very big. Beach, very, very good offensive line, very big. Alcoa's got a very good offensive line, and they're very big. And they average, I put the size on here, they average at 6'3", 276. Now, again, it's a little bit skewed because their right tackle and Jacob Crow is 6'8", 310. You just mentioned it, the 3-star going to Texas Tech. When you've looked at them on film, I know you've watched that Anderson County game, you've seen Upperman all season long. Do you see that being an issue for this Upperman front defensively?
Yes. So this gets into the health of Andrew Bohan is going to be pivotal for Upperman. He has been maybe the most underrated player in the entire Upper Cumberland. It's very rare when you can say that about an Upperman player, but I think it's true. He was the difference in some of these matchups and region play. His ability to get into the backfield. Now, if he plays, that helps Upperman a lot. I'm going to be very interested for both teams. What fronts do they run? Because both teams love to run a 3-down front defensively. Alcoa is super interesting offensively because they are not the same as Greenville at all. And certainly not the same even in the least as Beach. Both those teams have quarterbacks that run a lot. Now, Thomas Manu is a great quarterback. We're going to talk about him. But they are a quick hitter offense. We talked about how Stone is more of a collegiate style offense. Alcoa's offense reminds me more of a pro style in 2025. A lot of quick game. It's get it into their athletes' hands in open space. Their receivers, while not blazing fast, very big and very athletic. They are 6'2", 6'3", and that line is very good at creating holes. But they are a death by 1,000 paper cuts and then hit you with a deep shot. 5-yard check down, 6-yard check down, catch and run. Now they're going to hit the deep post over the top. So it is a different matchup, in some ways better. Upperman clearly didn't handle, Beach up front well at all. Now, talk about Bohan also having Israel Alvarez back in the middle of that defensive line. Gigantic for Upperman. That's 2 key pieces that have been out at times. If they have them both, I think that helps them a lot. But the way Alcoa runs offense is different than those teams that gave them problems. Now, it doesn't mean Alcoa is not going to give them problems. They absolutely are, but it's a ton of quick game. The quarterback, he's just over 200 yards rushing, had a lot of that, though, against Marable. So if it gets tight, he's fully capable of tucking in and running. No interceptions this year for Manu. An unbelievable stat. But it's because
ridiculous.
It's 3-step drop, get the ball out, and then a receiver makes a play. It is very quarterback friendly, and that is not a shot at Manu at all. He's a great player. It's really a compliment to the system that Alcoa runs that makes it so difficult to stop because they are so multiple in the things that they can do.
Yeah, you look at the numbers. Manu also a Mr. Football semifinalist coming into this game. So both quarterbacks going to be Mr. Football semifinalists in this football game in round 2 of the playoffs. It's just ridiculous that we get it. It's maybe the one good thing about the way the playoffs are this year is we get this matchup in round 2. We expected it to be in the semifinals, and it could have been if Alcoa would have won that final game of the regular season as well. But again, for Manu, it's thrown for over 2,000 yards coming into this game. 36 touchdowns passing, and you mentioned it, 0 interceptions, and he'll run it if he needs to, but he's really not going to run the football. He's under 250 yards rushing on the season overall. For the Bees, they've got a Mr. Football semifinalist as well in Bronston Chaffin. He has thrown for over 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns. He has thrown 5 picks this season. However, he runs the football. 1,252 yards rushing and 19 touchdowns on the ground. So he has one more touchdown, at least in terms of total touchdowns. Manu has run it I think he's run it 1 or 2 times into the end zone. So they're almost on par in terms of total touchdowns. Chaffin obviously hasn't beat in terms of the rushing yards. So they do it a little bit differently, and you'll see Chaffin maybe take a few more deep shots in this game.
Yeah, you will. Okay, we're going to get you don't know football crowd's about to have a rough night because we're going to get into this in a lot of ways. So, and I'll try to break this down. Upperman needs Bronston Chaffin to put on the cape. If you want to beat Alcoa, you got to have a superhuman performance out of your quarterback. You're trying to do something. It will be 3,997 days on Friday night since Alcoa has lost a playoff game.
Yep.
That being said, I can't also squirrel, wild goose chase for a second. Can't believe I haven't said this yet. They met before in 2018,
yeah, right?
And in 2013. 2013 game was completely different. The 2018 game, Upperman got screwed. I was 5 feet away from the onside kick. They could not tackle Blake Metzger. They were going to go down there and score, and I know for a fact Adam Kane was going to go for 2, and Upperman was going to end the streak in 2018. Upperman recovered the onside kick. The officials gave it to Alcoa. It will never make sense. With my own eyes, the worst call I have ever seen. And I was 5 feet away. I wasn't broadcasting. I was riding still on the sidelines. Got screwed. Okay. And it's funny. I was watching an Alcoa thing is because we like to do our research. And they said it was a very hostile press box that I was like, I'm sure it was. Because
I can imagine.
Some people always think they got screwed. That night in 2018, Upperman got screwed. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. Now back on track here. While I talked about the line and how they were maligned and how, Beach and Greenville ran through, in both those games, Bronston Chaffin had 2 interceptions and a fumble against Greenville. Now, one of those picks against Greenville, it's at the buzzer. At the end of the half, you got to throw it into the end zone. No harm, no foul. But one of them gave Greenville, a short field at the 20-yard line. So you don't do that. You don't have a ball pop out and then bounce right into Greenville's hands for an easy touchdown. The game could have been differently, but that's every football game. They need Bronston Chaffin to be superhuman. The good news is we say that Bronston Chaffin is fully capable of going superhuman. And this is where, and I know the football guys won't love this, that basketball state championship run, I think, pays dividends. You talk about not only that, a state championship in football, state championship game run that they have been on. These are players, Colton Johnson, Bronston Chaffin, Carmine Phillips, who have been in the biggest spots. They are not going to blink on their home field no matter who the opponent is. And I think in a lot of ways, the mystique, which is well-earned, 10 consecutive state championships of Alcoa, is almost your biggest opponent. And one other point on this front, probably the first time since that game in 2013, Jacob, that Upperman gets to be the hunter. They are always the hunted, always, in every sport. Alcoa comes to your building, you get to hunt. And so it'll be very interesting to see how this Upperman team answers the call. You think about that Greenville game this year. There's no question about it. They were the hunted with how Greenville played. Now Upperman gets to have that chip on their shoulder where nobody's going to pick them from outside of our area, and they got an opportunity to go and end a 3,997-day streak.
You mentioned that streak right there, and it's an even longer one for this Alcoa team. The last time they lost in the second round of the playoffs was 1999, before the turn of the century. Now, you can caveat that with they did miss the playoffs in 2002, so you could technically say that was the last time. The last time they played in a second round game and lost that second round game was 1999. And then I mentioned they missed the playoffs in 2002. That's the first time they had missed the playoffs. And you got to go all the way back to 1994, the last time they missed the playoffs. The only two times they missed the playoffs in a very long time. So it's been a very long time for them losing in the second round. And for the Bees, they've been in a lot of second rounds. However, they're 3-4 in these last 7 years in this second round.
It has been second round or semifinal state championship game. Now, they lost in the second round last year, and typically they have really good years after losing in the second round. This is not your typical year. Right. There's still so much we can get into with the X's and O's of this matchup too, Jacob, because
we're getting some help from the Bohans as well. It sounds like he's playing.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but okay, ready? Delete that. Okay. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Delete that. We have no clue if he's going to play. Okay. You with me? Thank you for delete that. Anyway, so I do want to address, what was that? We got the question earlier from Jonathan, because we said, would you change
to a 4-3 or 5-3 line?
And then the one earlier where Jonathan said, when you get, did you watch how Alcoa got beat? Yes. Do you think Upperman can do the same thing? In my opinion, they got stopped up the middle and made tackles when they bounced out and didn't get beat by the deep ball or big plays. So you're pretty accurate there with that assessment. The thing with playing a team the way Alcoa plays, that death by 1,000 paper cuts of getting into the players' hands, you got to be really good tacklers. You got to get them on the ground on the outside and bend but don't break. The good news is Upperman's very comfortable with that. You've got to be comfortable with them getting to the 20-yard line and then having to bow up and get 4 consecutive stops. You think about that Anderson County game, the first drive for Alcoa, they're down on the 1-yard line, get stuffed a couple of times in a row, and the next play, Anderson County fires a takeoff 99 yards. I think the player, with all the attention on Bronston Chaffin and Thomas Manu, which is totally warranted, 2 sensational players, the single next most important player, and Colton Johnson in that group as well, among the guys that other people may not know, Upperman needs Elijah Fitz to have a huge night. They need him to have a huge night offensively. He was not super involved in the offense against Greenville. We have seen him become, outside of Colton Johnson, probably Bronston Chapin's favorite target. Yep. He's going to go up against taller corners, but Elijah Fitz has legit breakaway speed. They love to hit him deep. They have
very
got
physical
to have
as well.
No doubt about it. And then you flip it on the other side here, though. You're going to need him to come up big defensively against wide receivers who are bigger in stature than he is. So going to have to rake the ball out when it comes in. Going to have to tackle well. Gunner block out of that free safety spot has to tackle well for Upperman on Friday night. And then on the other side, you need Schaefer to have a really good game. And I wonder if we see any Carmine Phillips on the outside at corner in this game. I wonder what other wrinkles Adam Kane will have here. This is an empty the chamber night for Upperman. Right. If you've got an opportunity to put anybody on the field, wink, wink, nod, nod, on defense against Alcoa on your home field is the night to put anybody on the field. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen at all. That's me saying, as I've been saying for 4 years. Well, I would do it.
We saw Matthew Willey last week. Of course, he was an all-state defensive player last year, moves to quarterback this year, not playing defense until round 1 of the playoffs. And obviously it didn't work out for Macon County, but it's kind of the same mentality. You got to throw everything you can because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not guaranteed a next game. You got to throw everything out there.
You have to throw everything out there. The great thing, I think, for Upperman in this game, Jacob, and you could tell me if you agree with this, it really strikes me like the Anderson County game, where we looked at the tape and said, okay, this is a really good football team. Alcoa is a really good football team, but Upperman's got some dudes. They got a great head coach and a really good coaching staff, and they're going to have an opportunity to go toe-to-toe with this football team. Now, that doesn't ensure a win. It doesn't mean you're going to go out and win by 20 points. You don't play well, you'll get blown out. But it means you got a chance. I don't think in 2013 Upperman had a chance. In 2018, they did. 2018, they started slow, down 3 scores off the rip. Can't do that, right? Can't do that. Got to have a quick start. But this is not the kind of game, and I was actually thinking about this today. If you lose the toss, or if you win the toss you can defer and play defense if you're Opperman. Like it's that sort of a game. You have got to.
Yeah, you don't have to take it and go and score.
And this is going to sound like the boys basketball state tournament. I think if you're Opperman, you could say if you play your game, you got a chance to go win. You don't have to throw every trick play in the world. You can go out and play offense. Now, X's and O's. Alcoa in this 3 down front. Opperman's playing a lot of spread. I think there will be opportunities for Opperman in the QB run game on Friday night with Bronston Chaffin, a lot of power, a lot of counter, and then getting back into it. Would not surprise me if we see some throwback stuff where it's 11 bodies in the box and trying to get people outnumbered and run the football. Very similar to what teams try to do to Opperman when they get into their 3-3 stack. So somebody asked about the 4 down front, 3 down front. You're going to play your defense. Opperman's got some 3 down front in there. Anderson County threw some bear fronts out there. I have not seen Opperman do that. That's 5 down. But if you have an opportunity to do it, you're going to see it. So I think there are opportunities. As we look at the schedule for Alcoa, we talk about opportunities offensively. Okay, you go here. Maryville scored 28 points. Okay, then Bearden scored 13. Gibbs scored 7. 0, 13, 0, 7, 0, 0. None of that is really good competition. Anderson County scored 31. We've talked about before the Anderson County game. I said I think Upperman's offense is on par, certainly with Anderson County and potentially even with Maryville. You're going to have opportunities to score in this football game. How did they do it? Do they try to bleed the clock down, or do we see Upperman try to play offense very multiple the way they have all season long? We'll learn that very early on. But the overarching point, I do think Upperman has an opportunity to play their game and end this streak for Alcoa. Doesn't mean it's a layup. Doesn't mean it's easy, but they are talented enough to do that.
You mentioned Upperman being able to be the hunter now rather than having to be the hunted really for the last long time, especially being in Baxter. It's going to be really interesting for this Alcoa team. They just lost 2 weeks ago. Does that light a fire under them saying, hey, you can lose at any moment? They haven't really had to feel like that until they get to a championship game.
I mean, the players have never felt that way.
Right.
There's never been a moment, even in a championship game in 3A, where it was like, oh, you could get beat. Please. There was never a second where anybody thought Alcoa was going to get beat. Ethan, does Alcoa have guys playing both sides of the ball or all over the field? A lot less than Upperman does. Tell you that. They will come in more guys. They do have a few that go both ways, but they have a deeper roster that they can go to without question. Good question there. That gets back to your point, Jacob, about the question we had with Stone Anderson County. What reality of which do we live? If Alcoa is just head and shoulders better than everybody else, which is what we thought was the case before Anderson County, then yeah, it's a big problem that they lost because they're going to come in ready to go. Can they hit that level? If you're an Alcoa fan, you're thinking, absolutely. You guys are idiots. Why are you even asking if it's a question? I get it. If I was a fan of a team that won 10 state championships in a row, I'd feel pretty freaking invincible as well. And the difference, this is important because we got into it with the Greenville fans, with the Anderson County fans, with the Melrose fans, right? I want to be very clear here. We're trying to break down this matchup. Alcoa has earned the right to feel like they're going to hammer everybody. That is the difference. That was the thing that drove us crazy about some of those other fan bases. We're like, you haven't done it either. Why are you talking like you're just head and shoulders above everybody? Alcoa,
why are you talking like you're Alcoa?
Correct. You've earned the swag. Alcoa in Oakland, talk whatever you want to talk.
Yep.
Like, I got no problem there. I would be the exact same way, okay, if I was an Alcoa guy, if I covered Alcoa. So I want to make that distinction clear. Now, I do think there's a natural inclination maybe to overlook Upperman because of that. But what makes Alcoa so good, I don't care the class, is that as a program, they have not looked ahead. So we're going to find out if that loss to Anderson County was a precursor to tell us about the state of the class, or if that was the wake-up call they needed to roll to an 11th consecutive gold ball.
Winner of this game will get the winner of Red Bank and Gibbs in the quarterfinals. Expect whoever wins this game to probably be in the semifinals.
Yes. No disrespect to Gibbs.
No
disrespect. Gibbs.
Listen, I saw Red Bank. They got a really good running back. The quarterback's pretty good. Not as good as these two teams.
Here's what I would say about Gibbs. I think Gibbs and Stone Memorial are in very similar spots this week. I think Red Bank is maybe a step behind the rest of this bunch, but I think
Yeah.
Stone and Gibbs are good enough to give a really good team a scare. Gibbs already beat Anderson County, albeit with the backup quarterback, got destroyed by Alcoa, but that was before Alcoa lost, a game. So we'll see. This feels state championship-esque, but
It does.
But what do we talk about on Thursday? This bracket is so good because this feels like a state championship game, and yet the team I said I think is the favorite is not playing in this game. What a good classification that we have this year. Now, it's unfortunate for some of these teams. Any other year, this Upperman team's a hands-down favorite or this Alcoa team's a hands-down favorite, XYZ. It's going to be a treat for the fans, but it's going to be some wars for these teams.
You ready to pick it?
Let's do it. You go first.
I think I got to
Say it
go
with your
Alcoa
chest.
on this one.
Say it with your chest. Come on.
I got to go Alcoa on this one. 10 straight state titles. They haven't lost a game in the playoffs in a very, very long time. Second round of the playoffs. I'm going to go Alcoa, but I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going 35-28.
Such a completely fair pick. It will be a cold day and you know where before I pick against one of our teams if they have a chance to beat Alcoa. Just full stop. The one thing that has eluded Bronzed Chaffin from becoming one of the all-time greats, not at Upperman, he is that, in all of Upper Cumberland high school football, is a state championship.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of that end result, beating Alcoa, build the statue. Bronzed Chaffin puts on the cape. Colton Johnson gets a couple of licks in, and Upperman defends their home field. It will not be turf. It will not be pretty. It will be feisty. Nobody get arrested, please and thank you. Everybody enjoy yourselves. Band train
Actually going to have good weather, though.
Should be good weather. No chance I'm picking Alcoa in this game. Give me the Bees. 42-28 late score. Ices it away. Bronzed Chaffin. 4 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown rushes, and Upperman wins and advances.
It's going to be so much fun coming up on Friday night. Again, that is our only broadcast game coming up Friday night on the UCR Facebook page and YouTube channel, presented by Mayberry's Furniture and Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate. Everybody is going to be on the call. Noah has play-by-play, Justin and Jeremy on color, Coach Dodgen down on the sideline. I'll be your game day host, and we'll have Goose out there as well, roaming the sidelines for video and photo coverage coming to the website afterwards. He'll have content coming throughout the game as well. Of course, we'll be paying attention to the other games coming up Friday night in round 2 of the playoffs. Stone Memorial at Anderson County, White County at Greenville, Midway at Clay County, and Oneida at Gornsville. We will wrap it all up for the Friday night End Zone Show presented by the Real Estate Collective. That could be a very fun End Zone Show coming up Friday night. No matter what, I think it's going to be a fun End Zone Show coming up Friday night. And then on Saturday, Noah is going back on the road as the Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles going to Kentucky, one of the SEC opponents, before they get back into a huge one coming up with UT Martin after that. That'll be a 1:30 on 106.1 The Eagle coming up on Saturday. I know, Noah, we're focusing on the games. We've got a basketball game tomorrow night for Tech. We've obviously got football Friday, but that one should be fun on Saturday for the Golden Eagles.
Temper your expectations. The game next week, way more important. I did want to mention, we put a post up about it. Very limited advertising spots available on Upperman Alcoa. Yep. If it's a good game, we anticipate it could be the most watched football broadcast we have ever done here at UCR. 30-second ad spots or live reads. Send us a message right now. I'll get you hooked up. Literally, I'll send you a link. You pay it. It's done. We build your advertisement out, and a bunch of people see it, and it'll help us because, as you just mentioned, so let's see, that's you, Jeremy, Dodgen, Goose, all of them want to get paid. So you can help us out by sending us a message and have the best advertising you can get in the entire Upper Cumberland, probably in the entire state. So send us a message. We'll get you hooked up on that.
It's going to be so much fun coming up Friday night, Saturday as well. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We've got some more Tech basketball coming your way tomorrow night at 6 o'clock on 106.1 The Eagle. Myself and Noah will be on the call of that as they take on Division III Berea out of Kentucky. Looking forward to that basketball game coming up tomorrow night. And then, of course, it's the big one, Upperman and Alcoa, coming up Friday night on the main UCR Facebook page and YouTube channel. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for interacting with us in the comments as well. Make sure you like the stream, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, if you haven't done so already, and you can hit that share button on Facebook as well. That's going to do it for us tonight.